Alright, let's start the second shot at my first video, Groundhog Day all over again. And after I recorded the first one, first ever, it turns out the default volume on the microphone was too low on the computer, so it would have been a waste. You can hear it, but not good enough, sorry. And then, while I'm nursing that wound, literally a groundhog, as in Groundhog Day, as in that movie in Western Pennsylvania, where I am, comes up to the window here. And we get animals at this window, but never one of those. And, 20 minutes later, I figured out, ground. All right, so today we're here to talk about this article. This is what finally prompted me. And I'm going to be on here a lot talking about other things. But I needed something that just nudged me because I'm bored with myself. And I'm going to be talking about myself. So it kind of, to myself. To a machine. So it's odd at first. I think it'll be easy once you get used to it. But it's very odd. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this article first. This guy, Rizwan, founder of Play Labs at MIT, wrote a great article. It even got me to finally move. And it is on, I think he's a guest writer on NBC, news.com opinion. And he's saying the U.S. military takes UFOs seriously. Why doesn't Silicon Valley or academia? Well, I agree with that, Riz, and I like what you're doing here, and it's the angle I needed to budge, because I'm here mostly to talk about propulsion and how these things move and why they do this or that, and the 5 observables and air quotes anti-gravity, that sort of thing. That's mostly why I'm here. Transmedium vehicles, that sort of stuff. But occasionally I'm going to talk about the other aspect, and that's kind of what moves me now. I mean, the other stuff I've been doing for years. I've had these opinions of mine for years, put them out there on websites and Twitter, things like that. But, you have to be a human being in this day of video. I thought I could sneak by, but I'm going to have to be out here pushing it myself. But anyway, this article is, the headline sums it up, what he's trying to say. Why doesn't Silicon Valley or academia? Agreed, Riz, because they are, compared to the military, they're private sector. Especially Silicon Valley, who should know better. Capitalists that turn into goofballs when they make money, we can all rip on them. That's very easy. But some of them probably do want to look ahead. They'd like to. I mean, they're investing in rockets left and right. Maybe some of them can look a little further ahead. These UFOs help us do that. So let's do that. And what are we doing? I'm doing talking. All right. Silicon Valley, a home of startups. We've all heard those stories. And we're all impressed by it. You'd think they'd have an anti-gravity startup by now, wouldn't you? I mean, somebody with a couple of bucks, seed somebody on something just to look at it, whatever. You do all kinds of other wasteful things and good things. But here's an anti-gravity startup. Oh, there it is, right on the top of Google search. Oh, but it's in Pittsburgh, PA. Look, this is 2 years old now. Somebody out there has been thinking about this for quite some time. And now we're getting to the point of even NBC has people on there saying, hey, what's going on? Silicon Valley, do something. You're supposed to be innovative. But instead you have clowns out here in Pittsburgh that are ahead of you already. Why is that? Oh, look, he's on this too. What is this thing? This is a startup site called angel.com. What are we missing here, folks? there's somebody out there who's apparently been watching these things, actually thought about it before they started showing up on TV. And frankly, I hate confirmation bias, but I'm going to use it here because it's right in front of my face. It came up on television. So yes, it does prove a few of my points. I may be right, I may be wrong. We all know that nobody really knows yet. But some theories may be better than others, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. We'll see. It takes patience. I've been at it for quite some time. And so have some other people. And that's why Riz... Oh, here's my response to Riz when I saw this. First I saw it. Somebody else tweeted it that works at NBC. The Pentagon has stopped laughing. Why hasn't Silicon Valley? I don't know either. Thanks, Aaron Gilchrist of NBC, for tweeting Riz's article. But of course, I have to be a wise guy and smart off at this guy because I'm a little frustrated. I admit it. And so I say, oh, the Silicon Valley's too busy, goofing off, whatever. That might not have been the best response. Especially, so when I see Riz's, the writer's article, I stupidly cut and paste my own smart aleck response, but then a half an hour later think better of it and try to show that yes, they're not necessarily in Silicon Valley. But we're thinking about these things. Okay, in some detail here. And right now I'm focusing on myself here, but I'm going to bring other people into this in a moment. And some of you probably know who you are. And so do the viewers of these videos, because these people inspired me to get onto YouTube. I thought I could get away without it, and then, I thought, man, maybe I have to. And maybe someday I'll be excited about it instead of nervous, but this is, what do you expect for the first video? So people here have ideas about how these things probably work. And of course, I'm most interested in my own. Like I said, I'm almost bored with them. There are other people out here too, and we're all going to have something to say about it. And academia, Silicon Valley, wake up. Military, we know you're asleep. Plus you have duties. We understand that. I make fun of them, and so do other people. But they have to balance multiple factors. But the net result is, again, the private sector will do that. So who else is out here with me? Well, we have... most notably, I'd say, the alien scientist. He's been at it for quite some time talking about this stuff. All right, we have a lot of good ideas coming out of him. And APEC here, which is Tim Ventura. Alien scientist is named Jeremy Riss. And his cohorts are Mark Sokol and Jeremiah Pop, I believe his name is. Like Iggy Pop, only 3 P's. Not funny. Maybe I'll cut that. But these people are serious about this, as am I. And we want to thank Riz here for upping the game a little bit. It's getting up there in all different directions, but he was the first one I saw on such a big platform, and he's got something to do with MIT, which gets academics' attention. And if NBC's putting him on there, that's pretty big. All right, so we have the alien scientist. I wanted to mention him. We have this guy here. He's way ahead of the curve on thinking about these things. I'm talking about pumping light mostly. The alien scientists and this cohort, they're talking about all kinds of different ways to probably compete with these so-called alleged UFOs, whatever they may be. If they're doing those observables, it's serious business. But I think we can compete. I think, I don't have all the answers, but I have the starting point, I believe. And so do these other people. See? And we're going to go over all this stuff in mind-numbing detail. Look at all this stuff. These are just Twitter moments. Each one of those has 20 tweets in it we can discuss in at least, and they're all relevant to this. They're all relevant to this. Some people like video, so I'll put them on video. There's someone else I want. Oh yes, this bunch here. If you were on Twitter, listen up, Silicon Valley and academia, if you're really interested. If you follow me on Twitter and these other people, look at these people. There's 18 people on this, just this one thread. This thing here is only showing a few of them. And they're out here every day talking about this stuff. Pumping light, resonating it, quantum inertia, M drive, things like that. You've heard of some of it. And it's going to break eventually. These people aren't wasting their time on, little green men here. I'm sure not. I can see something in nature. It's deceptively simple, and we'll get into it. And I'm going to do another video after this, starting with this, and we'll get into it more substantively. This was just to kick me off because this guy got some juices flowing that aren't normally going, and I need something to get going. Silicon Valley, that's your first flying car. If that doesn't provoke you, nothing will. It's not going to be a Tesla going around the moon on thrust. It's going to be that car lifted up by graphene, Vanta black sandwich, metamaterial, something along those lines. That's how reality happens. Slowly and strangely in an odd way, with groundhogs at the window and things like that. So I think, let's check and see what our time here is. Yeah, this is about where I was last time. And let's go back to the desktop here. Where is there's the desktop here. But let's see, we're going to do something here. Oh, this is me. You'll be seeing me a lot. Since it's my channel, there's my Rate My Room. That's not a prop. I've had that lamp since I was a kid. Very innovative for you Silicon Valley types out there doing the same thing over and over again. Most of you. Going to Miami and Austin and someplace real is a very good idea. I'm glad you're doing that. Rate My Room, you got that. You got a printer behind me you can't see. And sometimes we'll get special guests here in the upcoming videos, like our little groundhog. Usually it's a bird, a turkey, or a deer licking the window. Other than that, that's my first intro. I guess I'm coming up on 15 minutes. Hopefully the sound's okay. I'm sick of looking at myself there in such harsh light. Let's go back to the tiny webcam and screen. Not that screen. This screen. And again, I'm telling you, Silicon Valley, that's where you want to be. You probably already are, some of you. You're just sniffing around the edge. I'm going to try to goad you into being less shy. Because what's going to happen is you're going to wish your Silicon Valley startup was on here instead of a dope like me way ahead of you. And that's what's going on with that. So, yeah, we'll start digging into this stuff. I'll try to make it interesting for you. I'm not a professional communicator. I think with some time I can get better at it. You can read about me. I put links to my background on the YouTube profile, whatever it is. I'm an engineer and attorney, and way too interested in this stuff. And yes, I have a background in it, but that's mostly what I gave myself. I was an engineer. I started out in nuclear design and construction and testing. Started going to night law school, get into construction law. That's basically most of my professional career right there. And you can go look that stuff up on profile pages and LinkedIn. I'm on there. Places like that. But we'll be talking about fun stuff like, how does this thing, ooh, is that real? I don't know. We'll talk about it in the next video. If so, how would it work? Well, it would be hydrophobic like that. That's a piece of metal floating on water. And what causes that? Where's my little, whatchamacallit? There it is. I like this. It reminds me of the transmedium vehicles. That thing absorbs light. That's Vantablack. Absorbs 99% of all light. So we absorb it, we pull it through our mass. It becomes mass temporarily. We throw it out the back, wrap it around in a bubble. We're floating it around, and gravity doesn't affect light like it does mass. So if you're floating in light, you're in there with your little oxygen tank or whatever else, in your lazy boy chair. You're floating. You're in you're in air maybe, or space, but you're in a thing that's not really bothered by it. Especially since you're blowing out and pumping more light through yourself, light which is mass equivalent, than you need. So anyway, and then this thing is doing that, and it's hydrophobic. It goes right in the water. Who cares? What water? And there it is in its little bubble. And, like I said, we'll get into all this stuff in detail. If you're interested in that, subscribe and like, and I'll do all that. Share the videos. And, yeah, there's all, you can go on and on with this stuff. What this does. Terahertz. You've all heard about terahertz, metamaterials. What is it? Who cares? Well, that's what outer space is. It's terahertz. It's cold temperature, for lack of anything else to say. You know why it's cold out there? Because it's terahertz. It's heat, but cold heat. That's what it is. So you absorb it. You waveguide it through yourself. You pump it through yourself like a submarine does. Pumps water through it. An efficient submarine does that. It doesn't propel with a little propeller, little Newtonian propeller all the time. Instead, it's like a Virginia class, or like the sub in the Red October. Pulls it through. It's advanced. Even a fish knows that. You have some fish that are slow with their little propeller. Okay, they flip it back and forth and go a little ways. Then you have a fish that pumps water in the ocean. It'll go 60 times its own length on one pump. And if it decides to shoot out in the air, it'll go 250 times. So all I'm doing is looking at nature, seeing the phases of water, for example. What do you think those clouds are? Millions of tons of anti-gravity water. Well, no, that's buoyancy, that's density. Yeah. But ask the next question of dig down deeper. Why is that? It's because it's got light pumping through it and around it and etc. We'll go through it and mine them in detail. And then look at ways like this to deal with it. See that? That's your light. That's your frequencies going through your waveguide. Yeah. Then you get a thing like this happening. What's that doing? That's supposed to illustrate it very simply. And we all know that's a Tic Tac UFO. If you're watching this, you probably know that. we can go into detail. Look at this thing. This guy came up with something. He's doing it on a small, he stumbled on this thing. And that's a certain wavelength and a certain material. We're going to do that with every, at will. We want a jet to move like that does. Instead of with explosions, we're going to do that. Except it won't be, it'll be a kind of a jet. But first you have to stop thinking about thrust all the time. Give us a chance out here. What is that? Oh, that's just one more wave guy. And look at this. All this science is being done. But no one looks to practically do that. Like I said, I'm an engineer. I'm not a physicist. So let's be clear about that. I want to make things happen. I want to see nuts and bolts, meats and potatoes. Yeah, the other stuff's interesting about the UFOs. But I'm the one that does this stuff. Look, this is pictures of my little graphene package here. What do? You take this thing, there's another picture of it that shows, oh, there it is right there. That's like a graphene sponge. That's carbon nanotubes all bunched up and made affordable. And this is a beginning, this is like an early wheel that looks like a square. Okay? That's what that's really what you're dealing with. Exaggerating maybe. But, bottom line, no, I don't think I am, or I wouldn't be here. What you do is you soak that in hydrogen, which I would do if I wasn't afraid of setting the place on fire. And I can demonstrate the thing with what I'm talking about with a balloon, a mirror, a sunny day, things like that. And I can, look at clouds and see what I need to see. I'm already convinced, so I don't need to blow up the kitchen yet. But that's your basic waveguide. That's your first anti-gravity metamaterial waiting to happen. But you have to, Silicon Valleys have to listen to us tinfoil hats out here. That's what we look like now, but that's what the Wright brothers looked like. So, that was my first video on this stuff. And again, I want to thank Rizwan Virk, founder of Play Labs at MIT, for really, getting, I have inspiration from this guy, etc. But you need something to really push that first video. After this, it gets easier. The one I did that you couldn't hear feels like experience already. So now I have twice as much experience. So I want to thank anybody that listens to this. And now leave. Oh, first where am I? Yeah, we're talking about the news here. We're talking about my opinion on news, science, and things like that. So we're always going to assert fair use, because what's the use of being an attorney if you don't do things like that now and then, like you're supposed to? Because they'll say you should have known better. Well, I do, I think. So, on some things, very limited things, but I won't be out here talking about things I don't have an opinion on. So again, thank you. Let me say goodbye in person, maybe? Where am I here? That's good enough. Goodbye. See you next time. Thank you for coming.